Cool. So now we're going to look at just the basic attacks of bare knuckle boxing. So one of the things you notice in Elliot is he only really does straight punches. Monstry talks about this as well, where Monstry outright says you shouldn't do round blows. He thinks that basically throwing, hooks and sort of, I think he's good with uppercuts, but any kind of sort of circular punch, is not good self-defense. Monstry's argument is it's very, very hard to hit square with the knuckles when you're throwing a hook, which when I've tried working a heavy bag, bare knuckled, I found to be mostly true, although I did eventually find a way around it where if you throw with your fist completely inverted, so like that, it tends to hit nominally square. But yeah, most of your punches in this will be straight. So the way you punch, if I'm sitting here, I'm rotating, and I'm going to throw just a basic jab, which is my basic opening punch. Even if I want to land my power hand, which is going to do more damage, I still need to line that up with a jab. And so all I do is I extend. I get to about half extension as I rock my body forward, and then all I do is lift my foot up and push with my back foot and fire myself forward. A technique called the drop step. And if you want to learn more about this footwork specifically, Jack Dempsey's book, Championship Fighting, and also the various videos of people basically talking about Jack Dempsey's book are really, really good resources. Yeah, all I do is I extend. I actually start my movement with my hand. So if I'm starting from a static guard, my hand starts moving first. This is a bit more like a fencing thrust than necessarily like punches in a more modern system. I move forward. I basically, I want to extend the first quarter of my extension just with the arm. The next quarter is a rock forward. And then the last bit of extension, I launch myself forward by lifting my foot up. And I'm moving the footwork is I'm moving all of my weight onto my forward foot and then just lifting it up, letting go so that my weight travels forward. An important thing to remember with this is that I'm not actually looking to do much damage with extending the arm. What I'm looking to do is use my body weight to do damage. And it can even be helpful when practicing this to just practice the footwork into a bag with an extended arm, so that you think of generating power with your body rather than with your arm. So again, extend and step. Another important thing, I'll come closer to the camera to show this, and back away and closer. This is really, really fun thing to do, is just do this footwork drill. But my fist is vertical. So in bare knuckle boxing systems and in even glove orientated systems, really up until the early 20th century, punches thrown at head height, the fist is always thrown vertical. I've heard various arguments as to why. Some people say it's so that if you hit the teeth are less likely to embed in your knuckles, which sounds not sounds kind of plausible, I guess. The other reason I've heard is that when you hold your fist out like this, it aligns better, so it's easy to get a straight line from your hitting surface all the way up your arm, so that the force of the punch, delivered by punch, goes all the way down your arm. Whereas the last thing you want is to hit someone with a slightly crooked fist and have your fist snap back like that, or like that, because that will hurt your wrist. So the idea is that this extension, extending with your fist straight, your fist up and down like this, is gives you much better alignment. The other thing I think, and the other thing to remember about these kinds of punches is you're not hitting with a knuckle, you're hitting with the entire flat of the fist. This is something Monstry says, where he says, if you want to generate true knockout power and not hurt your hands, you need to hit with the entire flat of your fist. So, one of the cues I find that's very good for getting people to throw proper punches in this system is imagine you're pushing with your fist. You're pushing a door or something with your fist. So you'll be going along and bang, pushing, push and shove. All right, so let's just practice a few jabs. So just start light on your feet. I want you to be moving. I want you to be sort of bouncing a bit on the spot as you're rotating your hands. And I'm just going to call jab, and I just want you to extend and drop step. And I find this works a bit better if you practice it more as like a sort of a single motion. So just rotating on the spot, and jab, 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 and jab. All right, cool. So some of you might have ended up on the other side of your hall because I didn't mention another bit of footwork, which is retreating. So unlike fencing, I don't always retreat from my jab. There are times when I will jab and cross to come in with multiple punches. But there are also plenty of times when I do retreat, especially if you're me and you're using your jab as like a range finding tool. So, you know, I'm moving out, and all I do to retreat is I stay up, I stay light on my feet. When I get to my full drop step, I just move back and I just skip my feet. So if I'm going to retreat, I actually leave my back foot here. I don't necessarily want to bring it up like I would for a fencing lunge. I just push off and skip back. The reason I skip is, you know, a lot of you will be like, but you'll end up further away than when you started. This is actually a bad habit to get into, because one of the things your opponent will do is use your jab for range finding as well. So I use my jab to go, oh, you know, I'm just out of reach of my opponent. And my opponent goes, aha, Tim is just out of reach. So I go range finding jab and then step back, and my opponent will then throw at me and overextend. This is something I've got to work far too many times. Usually only against beginner boxers or like for people who just started out, but it does work. So let's try it again. So jab and retreat. 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 And jab and retreat. All right. One of the other things I should probably mention in terms of defense is when I attack, I pop my shoulder. So I can show you that from the side. From this side. My shoulder is actually lifted up to cover my chin. I'm trying to get as far down behind my jab as I can, because I don't want my opponent coming over the top. And if they do come over the top, if my opponent does come over the top, I want them to hit right on the top of my skull, because that will hurt them more than it hurts me. So you want to dive under. So that's a jab to the face. A jab to the body is a little bit different. When I'm jabbing to the body, I actually throw with my fist horizontal. The reason for this, I find, and I found this is very true against when I've been punching a heavy bag, is that because if you look at my fist, most people's fingers will set a little bit of an angle, which is kind of why you want to punch flat to sort of flatten that angle out. But when you're punching downwards, if you do this, you're going to hit at basically this angle and your wrist is going to crack. If you punch like this, you're going to hit much flatter, probably not completely flat. But you also have the other advantage that you're going to hit with the top knuckles, which don't really have anywhere near as much give in them as your fingers. So we're going to try jabbing to the body. And all you do for this, exact same motion, except I extend downwards. So I extend, drop step in, and back. So jab, 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 and jab. All right. So now let's look at the next of our punches, which is the cross, or the right straight. Actually, those are technically different. Something Dempsey talks about is he says there's a right straight where you throw straight, and there's a cross where you pull your head off the line to throw. And So the motion for doing these is basically the same, except for where your head leans. I recommend if you're going to throw your backhand as an opening, throw it as a cross to cover yourself a bit, come off the line. Whereas if you're throwing a combo, this is something Monsri talks about, is he says that your punching combos should be like the arms of a locomotive. You know, that's when you're better off throwing like the right straight. So let's look at that motion, and you'll notice I did something slightly different with my feet then. When I throw the right cross, I extend out, I lift my heel off the ground, heel's lifted, I turn my body, I'm still dropping my weight forward, the same way I did with the drop step, except I'm doing it with the back of my body. So I'm transitioning my weight forward and I'm using this twist to generate power. So I'll throw, like bang. Probably a little bit more similar to punching techniques in modern boxing, I guess. But throw. And you see I'm bringing my back foot up, I'm kind of almost driving in. I want to get both that rotation of my body to use, like, you know, my powerful sort of hip and butt muscles, but I also want that transfer of weight. I want to be bringing my weight forward to bear, which is a lot of what makes this punch more powerful, is that it gets a lot of body rotation behind it. And certainly something you can do is load a jab, load it with body rotation, but this is very telegraphic unless it's concealed with another movement, whereas this is not. So again, the motion is very simple. Extend. As soon as I start extending, I lift the heel out, lift the heel up. Actually, a better way to think of the extension is don't think of it as moving your fist forward. Think of it as bringing your fist online. So I bring my fist online, lift, and I start lifting my heel up and coming forward and striking. So let's try that. So cross, 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 and cross. All right. So now I'm going to do them front on, and I want you to try doing it with the head movement rather than just doing it as a straight blow. And what we're going to do, and one of the cues I find really good for getting the head movement right, is I want you to imagine the elbow of your front hand is going down and touching your hip whilst you're keeping coverage here. So you're sucking everything down on this side, and you can see how much movement that gets me. The other thing you're more than welcome to do is bring your back foot out a little bit. I find that I'm much more balanced if my back foot actually slips out just a little bit when I do this, whereas doing this is a little bit less comfortable. But I know, you might find this works better for you. Horses for courses. All right, so cross, 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 and cross. All right, cool. So now we're going to go to the body. And you'll be completely unsurprised to learn that the way you go to the body with a cross is exactly the same as the way you go to the body with a jab, in the sense that, you know, punches to the head are done with a vertical fist, punches to the body with a horizontal fist. This is something Major Elliott talks about. He talks a lot about like fist position and, you know, how to line up the blow. So let's try that again. I'm just going to move through and assume that you can kind of piece together the cross instructions and the turn your fist over instructions, and we're just going to practice it. But I'll go a little bit slower. I know there are some people who like very explicit technique explanation. I'm, to be honest, not one of them. All right, so let's go. So cross, 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 and cross. All right, cool. So much like modern boxing, with 19th century boxing, you want to attack in combinations. You want to attack, you know, you want to send multiple attacks at your opponent in order to open them up. So I'm going to start with a very, very basic combination, which is the jab cross. So I'm here, I throw my jab, on my drop steps, bang, and then I throw my cross. I bring my back foot up. So let's just do that by numbers. So jab, cross, and back. 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 All right. So now we're going to look at a slightly different combination. And this is high jab, low jab. And you'll notice something. When I throw the high jab, I'm not doing much of a drop step. It's not necessarily a very powerful punch. And there are times when you'll do this in sparring where you won't even fully extend. All you're trying to do is invoke a defense from your opponent. So we're moving, high jab, low jab. And again, the drop step is only on the second jab, the low. You know, I'm trying to open up the body. And traditionally, actually, in sparring, I tend to find it's better to just follow up with a cross to the face. We're going to practice the high jab, low jab first, and then we'll practice that with the cross to the face, just so you get the most of the high, the low first. All right, so going high jab, low jab. 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 All right, so now we're going to do it probably more the way you do this in sparring, where after jabbing to the body, you're going to throw a cross to the face as you retreat out. So you go high jab, low jab, and then I'm actually going to use the same rotation I'd use to generate power with my offhand. I'm actually going to use to pull my front foot back to get out. This is, you're covering my retreat with a cross. So from here, high jab, low jab, cross. 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 And just a few more times. This is a lot more exercise than I've done in a while. High jab, low jab, cross. 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 And once more for luck, high jab, low jab, cross. So yeah, it's kind of a fun combination to do. All right, so hopefully that's got you nice and warmed up, and we've got our COVID-y exercises in. So before we move on, are there any questions? Yeah, I'm going to comment that the front on stance is interesting. If you want to keep you might want your elbows to stay inwards. Yeah, you always want all boxing, you really want your elbows to stay in, close to your body and only extending out for power reasons. I'm going to wipe myself out of my second lessons is really to get back into shape. I also no questions. We'll just move on. So I'm just going to pause recording.